Hello. We're going to do our Granny Shares the Bible today in Acts chapter 28. That's the last chapter of Acts. And I've just about decided that as soon as I finish this last chapter, I'm going to start in Genesis. I think that would be very interesting for us. I hope so. And sometimes it's a challenge. Any books of the Bible is a challenge, but I only signed on to tell what I know. I didn't say I was an expert, but I've tried to learn as I've lived for the Lord, tried to learn what he meant, when he was saying something, and tried to be able to explain it to somebody else. So I know I do have some knowledge of the Bible, and I'm going to impart it the best I can. And that's what I'm doing now. So chapter 28 in Acts, it says, "And when they were escaped, then they knew that the island was called Melita." It says Melita. I've always called it Melita, but in the modern times it's called Malta. And Malta is right below the island of Syracuse, which is the football at the foot of Italy. You know, Italy looks like a boot, and I'm finding my place here. And there is Syracuse, which is the island at the foot of it that looks like it's about to kick a football. And then here we go. And then right beneath that is Malta. And right beneath Syracuse. And let's see, it looks like it's about 100 miles from Syracuse. And so we're going to study that about Melita. That's how it pronounces it in my Bible, Melita. "And the barbarous people showed us no little kindness, for they kindled a fire and received us every one because of the present rain and because of the cold." Now, the barbarous people, it sounds pretty strong, that word barbarous. But what they meant about barbarous was they were not Greek, they were not Roman, they were pretty much the native people of Melita. Just natives that probably didn't have much communication with the outside world. Some, but probably not a whole lot, because it seems like that they weren't changed by the outside world. So they were showing no little kindness. It didn't matter to them if the people were prisoners. It didn't matter if they were soldiers. It didn't matter who they were. They were people, and they were in the storm. They were wet from the water. They were cold. And so they were there helping all the people that got off that ship, helping them. "For they kindled a fire and received us every one because of the present rain and because of the cold. And when Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and laid them on the fire, there came a viper out of the heat and fastened on his hand." Now, a viper is a poisonous snake, and that poisonous snake just fastened on Paul's hand. Now, I'll tell you something. I might not have died from the poison, but I might have died from the shock of having a poisonous snake fastened on my hand. You know what I mean? Heart attack. Because me and snakes, I can't stand the thought of a snake getting a hold of me. Well, Paul did something that was surprising to everybody. "And when the barbarians saw the venomous beast hang on his hand, they said among themselves, no doubt this man is a murderer, whom though he have escaped the sea, yet vengeance suffereth not to live." So they were thinking he was being judged as a murderer, judged by the venomous snake, by the circumstances. So they had some kind of belief in some kind of justice. So they were thinking he was a murderer. But listen to what Paul did. "And he shook off the beast into the fire and felt no harm." Paul is a perfect example of what Jesus said we would be. We will drink any deadly thing, and it shall not harm us. We will take up serpents. So that poison that went into his body wasn't harming him. That snake, he wasn't going to be harmed by that snake. He could just take it up. He did take it up, didn't he? Because it was hung on his hand, and he just shook it off. So Paul was a perfect example of what Jesus promised us. And let's just all determine in our minds, I'm going to be that perfect example too. If something comes across my way, I'm going to believe Jesus for just what he said too for me. That's what Paul did. He shook him off and felt no harm. I believe in that. I believe that the Lord has given us his word to believe in and to be helped by it, no matter how the enemy would try to kill us and try to harm us. Howbeit they looked when he should have swollen or fallen down dead suddenly, but after they had looked a great while and saw no harm come to him, they changed their minds and said that he was a god. So poor old Paul, he's just trying to follow the Lord the best he can. Now, in one moment he's a murderer, in the next moment he's a god. Next few moments he's a god. And so he just couldn't be just a follower of Jesus yet, because these people didn't know about Jesus. They were going to learn though. In the same quarters were possessions of the chief man of the island, whose name was Publius, who received us and lodged us 3 days courteously. The chief man of the island received us. And when it talks about us, again, we're talking from Luke's point of view. And it sounded like Luke and Paul and all the people that were connected with Paul, including the centurion, that they were received into Publius's house. And they were lodged there courteously for 3 days. And it came to pass that the father of Publius lay sick of a fever and of a bloody flux, to whom Paul entered in and prayed and laid his hands on him and healed him. Here again, Paul was the example of having Jesus in your life. And you have him. You know you have him. So it's time to just say, I'm going to believe in what I have. Paul believed in what he had. I'm going to believe in what I have. And I'm going to pray for somebody that's sick. And I'm going to believe that God, through Jesus, is going to heal them. That bloody flux, they say, I read about it, it said it was probably dysentery. They had dysentery then. And, you know, they had mosquitoes. They had malaria. They had all the things that still, in places where they don't have certain medicines, they still have. He had that bloody flux. And Paul prayed for him, laid his hands on him, and healed him. He didn't have it anymore. Have you ever been healed where you don't have it anymore? It's so wonderful. It's so wonderful. All we know, most people knows, is taking medicine for a condition. And usually it's just take the medicine on and on and on and on. And it will hold it down and not let it be fatal to you. It'll help you along the way. Your medicine will. That's all we know. But us Christians know something else. We know that through Jesus Christ and laying our hands on people and praying for them, they'll be healed. They won't just have to keep on taking the medicine. They won't have to keep on having the condition until they die. I had a bad knee and the Lord healed my knee, and I do not have to have surgery on it. Never. It's healed. And I'm going to tell you, I'm trusting in Him. If it starts giving me any trouble, I go right back to it. Lord, you healed me. You know, I'm getting old, and there are things happening where I feel the age. Uh-oh, the phone is ringing. I'm almost done, but I'm going to just get it to quit ringing. All right, I found it and turned it off because I want to finish this today. Before I didn't want to start over. So anyhow, he healed him, and by that belief and trust in Jesus. You know, it isn't wrong to say that you pray for somebody and heal them. They need to be healed. But it really isn't you completely, but it's by you. It's Jesus working through you to heal them. And our faith in Jesus is healing them. Our hands are laid upon them and healing them. So glory to God for healing virtue flowing through us. And it says, so when this was done, others also which had diseases in the island came and were healed, who also honored us with many honors. And when we departed, they laded us with such things as were necessary. So they didn't have anything. They had the clothes on their back. They didn't have anything else because they'd come off the ship just with their lives. But Publius and his family and all them that were in charge, the chief man of the island, they gave them the things they needed. They gave them some extra clothes probably and some food to take along in the journey. Just such things as were necessary. And it says, and after 3 months. So they had to stay there. They did stay there for 3 months. I don't know. They probably asked, do any of the ships come this way? But guess what Paul knew? What did he know? Go back. Go back when Jesus talked to him. Be of good cheer, Paul, for as thou hast testified of me in Jerusalem, so must thou bear witness also at Rome. So Paul knew that he was going to be ending up in Rome. He may not have known how, but he knew he was going to Rome. And so Rome was still a distance. Let's see how far away Rome was from Melita or Malta. We'll look and we'll travel along this boat route. Let's see. There's about 300 miles, maybe about 500 miles still. Looks like it's about 300, about 400 or 500 more miles he had to go. That's a long ways. And he had to go by ship. Somebody had to come pick him up. So Paul was, I know he was still holding on to what Jesus had told him. So it was 3 months. After 3 months. What do you think Paul did in those 3 months? I know what he did. He preached Jesus to these people. I don't know about any language barriers. It doesn't really talk about that. I don't know if there is language barriers. I don't know if there was somebody to interpret. I don't know. But 3 months they were there. And it says, after 3 months we departed in a ship of Alexandria, which had wintered in the isle, whose sign was Castor and Pollux. Okay, so now we learn that that ship had wintered in the isle. So they knew that this ship was there. And probably they had been talking to the masters of the ship to try to get passage. They didn't. I don't know if they had any money. I don't know what they had. But these people seemed like that they would help them and tried. And it said they laded us with such things as were necessary. And so it might have been their passage on the ship also. And of course the Roman soldier could promise them to be paid when they got to Rome. So, and even probably commandeer the boat to take them there. So there's all kinds of ways that this could have happened, that they went on this boat. But before I stop today, I wanted to talk about this ship of Alexandria. Alexandria was in Egypt, and it was going to Rome, or going into Italy. It looked like they let them off somewhere short of Rome. Puteoli says, but this had a sign whose sign was Castor and Pollux. I'm real interested in stars, and Castor and Pollux are stars. They're stars. I think I'll wait till tomorrow to talk about them, because I've got something very interesting to tell you about these two stars. All right? Okay, see you tomorrow.